Hey everybody, I'm back. It's been a long time and there's been a lot of reasons for that. I did explain in the previous video. I've actually got a bit of a cold which has lasted for a very, very, very long time. And I suspect that that is something that they have put on me. But as this video is going to focus on the they, who are they? Now, as you probably would have been aware in my previous videos, I've always talked about the government and secret societies, but mostly like military, undercover, like black ops operations. As of late, doing my research and investigating, I now think I completely, not completely, but mostly understand what has been going on. And if there's any video you watch of mine, this is the most important one. So please stay to the end. What I have come to understand about the situation is quite all-encompassing. It's quite a grand scheme of things. It's like I was looking into like secret societies and things along that lines, false history of mankind, and I was wondering to myself, how could all of these things happen? How could all of these things be creating? Like, who is controlling everyone and everything? Because it seems like there is a script that we're all following. So I started to think about maybe it's a computer game and we've all been programmed and all this stuff. And then it got to a point where I realized, actually, no, this is probably not the case. I now believe that parasites are responsible for, it's like a parasitic entity, I would say, like a parasite alien being is responsible for the goings on here on Earth. And as you can see on the screen is an article talking about how many people have been infected by toxoplasmosis, which is a parasite that infects the brain and affects people's moods, behaviors. So I have some notes here, so I'm going to be reading from my notes. This is a very interesting topic, and what I have noticed about it is when I talk to people, they dismiss it. There is some cognitive dissonance within people who have been infected by the parasite, which is mostly everybody, where they can hear the information, but they can't process it. They hear it, but they take no action. So that, I feel, is a parasite trying to protect itself and fight against, being eradicated. But there is hope at the end of the tunnel. Once you're aware that we live in a system controlled by parasites, it all starts to make sense, and then you can start to take action to clear parasites from your system. And once we now that people are awakening, once we have cleared the parasites from our existence, we can start to see the world, we can start to form the world in our own imagination. We can have a more abundant life. We can have heaven here on earth. That's how I see it. So I didn't want to just come out here and just say like a parasite is the one controlling everybody and is in charge of governments and secret societies. I wanted to go to depth so you can get an understanding of where I'm coming from. So what I want you to take away, so the most important thing I want you to take away from this video is that there is maybe one big one, I don't know, but parasites infect the brain, the body, and affect, our behavior, our moods, our health, our spirituality. And it's so insidious. It goes to so many different levels. Let me go through my emotions and my thoughts. And then hopefully at the end of the video, I can come together and wrap it all up, because my mind and my thoughts about this are everywhere. So one thing I will say to you now, if you don't watch any more of this video, is go and start cleansing yourself from parasites. Change your diet, change what you eat, change what you consume, change what you watch. Don't touch people if you can avoid it. And yeah, because parasites can be passed by person to person. So, and it's this entity, it's like this entity that is controlling everybody from top to bottom. Before I continue, I just wanted to answer the question that I posed in the thumbnail of this video. Do parasites control the world government, control the world? I personally believe there is a large quantity, mostly the Western world, which is actually Eastern world, but that's another story altogether, who control the Europeans. So European countries, governments are controlled by parasites. I will go into more detail about this and we'll explain. And I think this is what the war is between the European, they say the first world and the third world countries. So a lot of the third world countries have been infected in terms of leaders and people, but it's more prominent in the Western European countries and other countries. I think this is what the dichotomy or the juxtaposition of the West and the East and the middle of the earth is, that the Western countries are controlled by parasites more so, and the other countries are trying to fight against this parasitic invasion. I'm going to have to make so many more videos about this topic, and from now on you will hear about this topic because it's so in depth, like it touches all of history. And so, but let me try and summarize really sum a lot of things up so you could get an overall picture. And then in future videos, I will go into more detail. But one of the things I noticed, because in the past, I would have considered myself a Christian. And in the Bible, as I was reading it, it would say a lot, it would often say God of hosts. And I never understood what it meant by God of hosts. And if it's a parasite, then I can understand God of hosts makes sense. That was one of the things that stood out to me a long time ago that I always questioned. I never asked anyone about it, but it kind of makes sense now. So I will talk about religion in other videos. All these are separate videos that I'll go into. But let's see. So let me see if I can construct, because I wrote this down out of order. So parasites, let's just identify what symptoms show that you may have parasites. So if you are not in control of your reality, you have a parasite problem. If you can't do magic or you cannot connect with nature, you have a parasite. If you have any health conditions, you have a parasite. If you're not financially abundant, you probably have a parasite. If you have any behavior issues, addictions, or problems like that, you probably have a parasite. If you have problems in general, you probably have a parasite invasion. So I will do another video about how our reality was before the parasites came and took over. So I guess what I should talk about is where the parasites came from. In some respects, they go back as far as human history exists, because I guess they're part of nature in some ways. There is alien parasites as well, which have come from outside of space. So I think, when they talk about meteorites and stuff like that, maybe some came along that way. But they have controlled and influenced human history for a very, very long time. What I would say is that parasites, if those who know anything about parasites, they can, especially the brain parasites, they can control your reality. What they do is they hijack your pineal gland and they control what you see and what you experience in life. So that's why I said that if you're not in control of your life, it's most likely that you have a parasite. Any issues you have in life is likely due to a parasite. So that's one of the things I wanted to mention. The most recent time that we've heard about parasite invasions was, from as far as I'm aware, is the Black Plague. So in the Western world, which I said before is the Eastern world, but they flipped the map upside down, wrong way around. So in the Eastern European world or Caucasian world, and there's more to this story than I can even get into right now, because there were Moors who ruled Europe. So it was originally a black nation or black empire, the European countries. And then the Black Plague happened. That's why they call it the Black Plague. A lot of those people were wiped out. There was also the Fire of London, which wiped out a lot of people. They tell you only a few people died. That is a lie. It wiped out a large amount of the population. So, but the Black Plague, let's go back to that. It wiped out half of the population of Europe. And so that was the first parasite invasion in recent history. And they said, obviously, because of the state of cleanliness of the environment of the West and how people kept the place. I don't know how true it is, and rats carried these parasites and they gave it to people, and the bubonic plague was bred and killed 50% of the population. That's when the parasites started to really take over, control the Western world or the Eastern world, however you choose to say it. So that's one of the things I wanted to mention. So I'm not going to go into all the detail now. I'll probably do separate videos on this. Tell me which ones interest you the most that you want me to go into, and I'll do my proper research and bring it all together. But yeah, so the parasite does warfare. Now, I'll quickly mention here, the government is aware. Some government employees are aware. Most people are not aware. Secret societies, the lower levels are not aware. Higher up, they are aware. But they have sold their souls, so they can't really... and the parasite has them under its control, so they can't really fight against it. But they have weakened themselves, and so they become hosts to these parasites. And you will find that a lot of these people at the top, and this also applies to corporations as well, they always get, there's a word for it, I forgot what it's called, but like psychopaths. They always get psychopaths to be at the head of leadership in most organizations. The hierarchy that we experience is a parasite hierarchy. I think they call it, what's it called? We'll call it hierarchy for now. Hierarchy is normally a parasite system. That's how the parasite operates. So they get these corrupt, parasite-infested, controlled individuals to be at the top of every organization. And what they do is that they effectively try to infect everybody else. And those they can't affect, they get rid of, or they bully, or they ostracize, or they, so you'll notice that if you tend to be ostracized from like groups and societies and events, like people, it's likely because you haven't been controlled by the parasite, and therefore it tries to isolate you and because it can't control everybody. Another thing I want to mention before we get into this is it can't control certain melanated people are hard to control. The parasite hates melanated people because they're harder to control than non-melanated people. There's a scientific reasons behind this. Again, another video. If you want me to talk about it, mention it in the comments. So let's get back into it. The parasite, it does biological warfare. So the first biological warfare was the Black Plague in the most recent history. So the Black Plague or the bubonic plague that killed half the population of Europe was the first initiation of Europe being taken into control of this parasite entity. Then I wrote here, so it killed when the Europeans, what they would do in the past, in the Victorian era, even the Edwardian era or the Victorian era, they would consume parasites in order to remain slim. Now, this is documented. They would eat worms and other things in order to remain slim. They wanted the parasites to eat their insides or to eat the food that they were eating. That's another, not the second, I say it's just another level. So, and the way they would eat their food, how unclean they were, how, like, it was just very, like, the ancient Egyptians, or the Kemetians, as I call them, because Kemetic means black lands, which is black people. The ancient Kemetians, they had a saying that cleanliness was close to godliness. So that you could tell that they were not easily influenced or controlled or consumed by these parasites because they had a clean environment, they had a clean way of living, they were very civilized. But ancient Europe, they had a very... and I'm not sure exactly to why this is the case, but they were very, I don't want to be rude, but unclean. They were unclean. They wouldn't bathe. They were unclean. They ate unhealthy foods. They ate raw meats. Ancient Kemetans, or ancient Egyptians, as you would probably know them by, didn't eat meats originally. So the introduction of animals to our food spectrum was also another way parasites were able to infect the body. So I have cut out all meats, all dairy, and I will continue to do that because, again, parasites live, because animals eat parasites from the ground and stuff. Anyway, long story short, that'll be another video anyway. So yeah, so because these Europeans were consuming parasites, they said they had maggots in their meats, in their pigs they would eat. It was just like parasite infestation. Like it would have been a dream environment for all parasites. So they became highly affected, and that's when colonization happened. Colonization was a parasite invasion of the rest of the world. And so they used white people because also, so I will quickly mention it here. So in scientific studies, they find that people without melanin are more easily susceptible to viruses, like all illnesses. They're more easily susceptible. Melanin acts as a barrier protection against, against viruses, parasites, and all these other things. It doesn't eliminate it completely, but it does act as a barrier. And that's why the parasite hates black people, black color. I call the people who are black Moors, because black means lack, and I don't believe that's what we are. We are Moor. But the parasite also changed language, because if you could imagine it, if it has access to your brain, it could control your reality. It changes languages according to how it feels is necessary. So anyway, it infected the Europeans. The Europeans went abroad spreading the parasite. So you probably know that when they went to America, a lot of the natives died because of viruses that were passed on from the Europeans. That was a parasite trying to infect its new host. And so at this point in the history where we are now, it's likely that a large majority of people are being affected by this parasite, and it controls. So one of the studies I was researching said 90% of the population have parasites in them. Toxoplasma, I can't remember what it's called, Toxoplasma gondii, which is a brain parasite, affects a large majority, if not every, I would say majority of populations around the world. So this is why we have to be aware of this. This is why we have to start cleansing. Like, if you understand, or if you understand, I don't like to say understand, if you understand what I'm trying to say, you'll know that all these secret societies, all of these, like, if you know about the Diddy case, for example, the American rapper who's been going to court because he did such horrendous things to people, you'll know that he's highly parasite infested. Now, there is I don't think he's a music producer, but he's like one of those agents that control musicians. But Clive Davis, this Jewish guy, he probably infected Diddy because I've heard that they were lovers, blah, blah, blah. Diddy is trying to affect as many people as possible. That's what the music industry is. It is, and so is media and all other industries. They're just trying to affect as many people as possible. Now, this goes on to chemtrails and the pollution and all these things as well. This parasite entity, with the help of our governments, secret societies, shadow governments, military agents, handlers, it has been spraying chemtrails into the air. These chemtrails include parasite eggs, and viruses and all these other things. It's trying to affect as many people as possible. It's trying to affect the earth. It's trying to control the population. Thankfully for us, and unfortunately for it, it can't control all of us. And there is a higher power that is trying to wake everybody up, which is happening at this moment. Everybody's waking up. So that's a great thing. And things are going to change now. So the time of that parasite, the spell that they said, the curse that they put on, they talk about the more people, so what people have been historically been called black people, the spell that had been put on them has broken. That 600 years, 400 years of slavery is over. People are awake now, and we are cleaning our system. So many more people are going back to veganism, going back to how it used to be, and connecting with Mother Earth. So that parasite is a patriarchal system. It hates women because women had the knowledge how to cleanse it. So when we go back to the Black Plague, which is going to be such a focal point in history, after the Black Plague, they started killing women and calling them witches because they had the power, they had the knowledge to cleanse themselves of parasites. So a lot of women didn't die in the Black Plague because they knew how to cleanse themselves. So again, that's why they target women, because women have a knowledge, a connection to the earth, a connection to the higher power. And so it doesn't like women, it wants to control them. And that's one of the reasons why we have the patriarchy. And white supremacy, or I call it white inferiority, because that's what it is again, that parasite trying to control. So yeah, racism, people who are racist are heavily parasite controlled. A lot of them are, so I call them demons as well, like demons, parasites, they're all the same to me. And so there's a history of that. There's actually another story. I want to talk about Solomon and his empire and how he controlled jinn, but I will do that in another video. So anyway, so let's go back to what I was discussing before. The financial system we live in, because I've studied finance and I'm learning more and more about the system in which we live in. When you get to really understand it, it is a scam. The whole system is a scam. A lot of the things is by luck. But when I say luck, there isn't such thing as luck. It's more like the parasites will allow certain things to happen. So our government and those in charge will allow certain things to happen. You kind of have to either, luck is like having to, by chance, you happen to invest in something that they are heavily invested in and they can't afford to lose. So you won't lose your money. But if there's something that they decide to switch over, I'm sort of talking about shares and investments here. If they have a big investment in something and they want to keep their investment, you invest in it, you're going to make money because they can't afford to lose it. But if they decide to switch over, spend all their shares or move their investments, and you are on the other half still invested in that asset or that thing, you will lose your money. So the system is kind of like by luck. The way that even mortgages and assets like property and land are controlled. So most land it belongs to the Queen here in the UK. Most land belongs to the royal family. So even to say that you own a home where you buy it is not true. They can confiscate it. And the most important thing that we as a people around the world need to do is take back our land, because it's land that grows our food that we live on. It's land that they have gained power over us with. So we have to take back our land and we have to change the laws around that. So anyway, food source. So if you suffer from a low vibration, you're more likely to have parasites in your system. If you have depression, all those mental health issues, parasite infestation. So I encourage you to change your diets, start eating healthy. I actually believe that prior to these parasites, we didn't have to eat before. I don't think we needed to eat, and I don't think we needed to drink. All those ancient buildings. So if you know about Tartaria, which is meant to be an old civilization that was erased from history, and they had advanced technology, like advanced buildings, I believe in that era, they did not need to eat or drink any water. There is a study of an Indian man who was able to live 74 years. He's lived without drinking or eating for years and years. And it has been studied. Again, I'll talk about that in another video. So I believe we did not need to eat or drink. And that would make sense because in Tartaria, they had no toilets in their buildings. And people wondered why that was the case. Now, we will talk about biological warfare again, maybe in another video, because we need to talk about the race system that we live in. There is a reason why the races are different, and there has been biological interference. And this parasite, because it lives in our bodies, it lives in our brains, and it has a mind that can interfere with every individual that it hosts, that is host to it. Sorry, it can affect your DNA. So when you have children, when a woman has a baby, the parasite transfers from the mother to the child. Now, there is a terminology for that. Let me see. I wrote it down. Let me see if I can find what the terminology is. It's called congenital transmission. So when a mother has a baby, if you have parasites in your system, it will pass from the mother to the child. So it can affect the child's DNA. So every era that we go through, there's something new that happens. Like even like the indigo children, the rainbow children. There's always parasite. I suspect parasites are responsible for such things. So even like autism and other things like that, I believe it's parasite induced, and it controls the ages of human race, because that's how it is. There is another element to it in terms of like there is Mother Nature, the higher power, the great mother. Again, with religion, you'll see patriarchy. You don't see female angels. You never hear about them. You never hear about female and there's no like female gods. Like the whole system has been corrupted, I would say, because if you know science as well, it will say that women were first before men. The male genome, the woman is the X and the male is the Y. So the Y is the weaker of the sexes, I would say. And that's been a mutation, and I suspect that's a parasite mutation. There's another thing I want to mention here, but I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. I will have to do some videos focusing on women and our plight and our way of getting out of the system of control that we've been in for so long. What I will say is the moon was created to control the female, or women, I'll say. The moon it's a control system. Parasites likely created that system, and that sounds very far-fetched, I know, but I will do more research and I'll come back to you with a video about that. But the system in which we live in isn't what it seems. Like I said, you can create your own reality when you have no parasites in you. So that's how things used to be. Parasites are the ones that are causing us to not be affected. So I guess I'm saying that word 100 times in this video, but it just has to be said. I want you to get it into your head. I want you to understand what is going on. So what else did I write? So another thing I wrote here is that everybody is the sun. We must tap into our own power source, clear parasites, and take from our own supply. There is no need to take from the world. It lowers our vibration. So what I mean by this is that we are suns. We are a power source. We are just as hot as the sun, but we're being drained of our energy. Parasites suck our nutrients, our energy, or anything that we possess that is ours. It's sucked out. It's drained from us by the system in which we live in. And so what I would say is that we haven't taken our things from the earth. We haven't taken food and sustenance from the earth. And I don't believe that's how it used to be. We have to draw from within ourselves. Another thing I will mention to this, which is another solution to get rid of parasites, is you must try to remain on a high frequency. Be happy. Try to avoid being depressed or low energy. I know that they try to stop you from doing this, but that's because they can't eat happy energy. They can't consume it. So happiness makes them depressed, or it makes them like they can't eat your energy when you're happy. They can't, they can't, when you have, what I'm trying to say is when you digest food, they can't digest happy, high level energy. They only need low level energy. So try to remain as high frequency, high vibration as possible. If it helps, think of the future that you'll live once they're gone, and be happy that will be the situation. And that also manifests or manifests that into reality. Another thing I wanted to mention here is that, so parasite mess with people's genetics. So I mentioned that when they have done studies on people who suffer like psychosis or mental health issues, they found that unmedicated, it shrinks the brain. That makes me believe that there's a sign of a parasite control in that situation. Another solution that I wanted to mention is you need to cut down on how much food you eat, because the high consumption of food is like an addiction, and that's probably due to a parasite. If you have a high addiction to food, parasite control. Cut down on sugar. If you can eliminate sugar, that would be amazing, but cut down drastically on how much sugar you consume because you're just feeding the parasites. So diet is an important aspect of that. There's something that I wanted to mention to help get rid of parasites, but they try to block it from my memory right now. But I would also say I'm going to do another video. I received a book that I've got about parasites, and this author, he calls them archons, which are like alien beings. He labels them as archons. Sorry, that's just my phone. He labels them as archons, and so I will try to get a review on that book later. It also has solutions in that book, but that book, I suspect, doesn't have like useful solutions. Yeah, he says be happy because it doesn't like to eat like high vibrational emotions, but there is a physical way that you can cleanse yourself. I'm not going to tell you how to cleanse yourself from parasites. You need to do that research, because they're going to try and stop you, but you have to try. Everybody has to try, because there's thousands of different herbs, thousands of different ways that we can get rid of parasites. And that's another reason why they control our food sources, and also they limit the herbs that we can consume and all of those type of things. So if you could go to a native of like a country, a tropical country, somewhere where they know about these things and know how to get rid of them, that would be good. Another thing I want to mention is Wetiko. What got me years ago, when I started going through my experience, I read a book called Wetiko. I didn't get all the way to the end, but as soon as I read the first few pages, I was like, yep, this is exactly what it is. The Red Indians of America, they have a tale about a virus called Wetiko, and it controls people's minds. That book is amazing. It's just called Wetiko. So if you type that in, find that book, read it. It will really elaborate as to what we're dealing with. Anyways, I'm going to leave it here. I can't recall anything else that I wanted to mention. If it does come to me, I will mention it in other videos. I do hope that you are all well. I will say again, if you're hearing voices, another thing that I have come to understand is that the parasite uses other people's personalities. They could be ghosts, so people who are not here, who've died, and it uses their like, obviously because it's access to their brain and their thoughts, it can use their personalities. A lot of the voices that you hear, some of them are ghosts, others are military. Like I said, the military are involved. That's what the secret services are involved in, controlling and surveillance. So the secret services are aware. But one thing I did learn when I was doing my research is that you would think the secret services have advanced technology. They don't have advanced technology as you would imagine. I will make a snippet from this and make a video of it, because I'm reading a book called The Falsification of History, and in it the author says that secret services get a lot of their software and technology from private corporations, like private companies. These private companies are more advanced than the MI5, MI6, and like FBI, CIA, and all these other organizations. So these organizations are not as well developed as you imagine. The technology is old, but they use private companies which are heavily controlled by these parasites, and they use their technology for surveillance. So the whole surveillance system is, again, like a parasitical thing. Parasites can't see with their eyes. They use other people to see. So they use drones and other things like that. This is going to sound weird, but if you see a lot of animals are controlled by parasites. So if you get a lot of flies in your place all the time, fly infestations, they're probably just trying to see inside your environment. Obviously, they see through satellites and stuff like that. But again, another video, I'll discuss that later. So it has been quite a long time now. I will probably leave the video. Let me see what else I wrote. The ghosts of... okay, yeah, so I mentioned the ghosts. A lot of them are ghosts or just other people's personalities being used as... one thing I want to mention before I go. So the illusions. If you know about mass illusions, you'll know that it will make sense that parasites can make mass illusions for the mass population, because they are in the brains, are in the pineal gland of most people. Again, street theatre. So how we talk about targeted individuals and how we see street theatre, you probably wonder, as a targeted individual, how is it possible that they can do all these things just by surveillance or technology? That's where the parasites come in. The parasites can react in real time. So that's why I would say. I would also add, technology is not as advanced as you think it is. Technology is an illusion to some extent, and it also is magic. But mostly it's parasite controlling your pineal gland to create the reality that you see. So that's another thing. So don't think that there's some really advanced computer out there doing all of this. No, parasites have the ability. It's kind of like if you think of a mushroom, like the mushroom network or the tree network under the ground or the mycelium network. It's kind of like that. When one parasite learns something, all of them learn it all around. Like it's same like viruses. When one virus learns something, it spreads that knowledge to all of its network, and that could be all around the world. So that's how they're able to, in real time, react to your thoughts, react to your thinking. Human beings can't hear what you're thinking. It's just a parasite, and it's reacting by using other human beings as hosts. That's what handlers are. Handlers are also parasite-infested people controlling you because they want to keep control of your energy, the way you think, your behavior, your actions. So I mentioned ghosts, Victorian, eating parasites, mentioned that. Language is controlled and governed by parasites. That's how they flip the language. And you wonder, how do they create new languages and why they flipped it around? And parasite control tried to make us lose our ability to control our reality. There are laws, which I will go to in another video. There are laws that parasites must, like all demons and parasites must be controlled by. Now, there is what I want to talk about when it comes to God, the God of hosts. So the God parasite and the devil and the Satan and Lucifer, they're all the same parasite. So I do believe there are parasites that are competing with each other. But again, one thing I want to mention that I think I forgot to mention, that's just come back to me. Do not tell people your belief systems. Keep your belief systems to yourself. When the parasite knows what you believe, it will start to use that against you. So don't inform people of what you believe. Keep it to yourself. And in the film, there has been film documented that shows what this parasite is like. So I will tell you 3 films that I remember watching back in the day. So one of them, I can't remember what the name was, but I think I've got it right. So the film is, one of the films that talks about this sort of parasite invasion that is really interesting is The Faculty. It was filmed in it was released in 1998. So The Faculty. It was about a school where they had been infected by parasites and it was controlling people. And it's a very good film. I won't go into too much detail. Go watch it if you can. If you've watched it, make a note in a comment and let me know that you've watched it. The second film is The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which was made in 1998, released in 1998. And again, that's about aliens or alien parasites controlling the earth, duplicating people, like growing human beings. This is what the incubator babies are about. This is where the Caucasian race came from. Incubator babies, parasites growing, parasite aliens regrowing human beings and using them for its agenda. And the last one, which is the one that is the most elaborating, and I implore every single one of you to go watch this film. I implore you to watch it again if you have watched it before. I think the film is called The Thing. So I'll put this in the comment section. I'll put this in the information section of this video. So The Thing, which was released in 1982, is about a parasite alien that takes over people, but it believes that it's God, because when it's killed people, people think of it as they fear that it's God or the devil. So it has now imagined itself to be the God, and so it's a very, 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 very good, enlightening film. It's a horror film. All of these are horror films. So if you're scared of horror films, I guess it's not as bad as like gory horror films, but I guess it's up to you. But I would implore you to watch it to get a better understanding of what's going on. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. As I say, so many videos coming out. They're all going to be based on this topic, and elaborating on how we can get rid of the parasites from our reality. And I am doing a cleanse at the moment, and I encourage you all to do a cleanse. Again, food is probably, what you put in your body is going to be the most impactful thing. Now, I did say earlier on in the video, if you could avoid touching people, then please do. If you have a partner who is not clean, who is not hygienically clean, I don't want to advise people in relationships, but I would just say you can pass parasites from person to person. It could be in the food, it could be by touch, it could be just, use your discernment. I guess if you can avoid touching people, then do what you can. But if you can't, I guess it is what it is. Just create an environment within your body which is not conducive to parasites. So try to be alkaline and not have acidic foods. And then eat as clean as possible. So sorry, I did blubber a lot in this video. You know me, I like to blubber a lot. So I hope it all made sense. If you have any more insights that you have on the topic, leave them in the comment section below. And I will speak to you in the next video. So take care. Bye.